Alrighty guys, for a while now we've been getting several questions about pocket knives, everyday carry knives, and their relevance to bushcraft survival community, what they can do outside. And I've generally stayed away from them because everywhere I go, especially here in Arkansas and Colorado, where my family's ranch is at, I really don't have to take my fixed blade off my side. I've been doing a lot of phone repair and Uber driving lately, so I've had to take it off just because I don't want customers feeling uncomfortable with a knife hanging off my hip. So one of the things that I've been looking at is folders and pocket knives, and although I have a full drawer of pocket knives, I've never had a pocket knife that I felt like could really do all the tasks that I wanted that I could do with my fixed blade. I could wiggle my way around it and generally make do with what I needed, but I didn't have a knife that I felt comfortable with beating up or really testing it to its limit. I'll show you this new knife that I've gotten called the Helle Scala, and we'll see how that does. So this right here is a Walmart brand pocket knife. This is my 4-year-old son's first pocket knife. And it's just a little tactical folder. It's got a nice locking back on it, easy to operate, and it's easy for me to manipulate with him. At this stage, I don't really let him use a knife without me in constant control over it. But it's his knife and he likes it, right? Whose knife is this? Is that yours?
Yes.
Do you like your knife?
Yes.
You want to tell them?
Yes. This is my knife. I like it this much.
Good. Okay. Thank you. For just everyday carrying and some, bushcraft style related stuff, I used to carry this one a lot. It's my Kin Onion CRKT. I think it's called a Shenanigan. I have 3 of them actually. This is the first production, or first production. So this is the one that I keep stashed away. And it's generally does a good job, but it just isn't able to make the same cuts that I would like in the outdoor camping scenario. Now this is a knife that I've used most often in the past when I was outside, when I needed a pocket knife, and I like using for smaller tasks that I didn't want to, or I didn't have my long blade or my fixed blade with me. This is a K-bar copper dog head pocket knife. It is a really nice, big, beefy, incredibly easy to maintain sharp blade, and I have skinned and cleaned and processed countless animals, from the easiest squirrel to deer to elk to possum and coon, and down to one of the harder ones, down to armadillo. This thing does basically everything, but it still has some play in it, and it's a little fragile. What I've found here is something that I've wanted for a very long time, but it has a pretty hefty price tag at $135, I think. And so I had to save up in a lot of tips to get this knife. I really, really like it, and I've been telling you guys about it for about a month now, but I've really been testing it as my go-to only knife that I've carried for about a month now, just for the purpose of intensely giving this a good run for its money and trying it out. This is the Helle Scala. Okay, the Helle Scala is considered a camping knife. It has the typical Helle Scandinavian grind on it, always a beautiful design. It feels great in your hand. It pushes it back into the grip. the palm of your hand really well so you don't create hot spots on the knuckles, the palm knuckles. I really like that. The blade itself is 3.3 inches long, cutting edge. It is, I don't know, it's like 6 ounces. It's a really heavy duty knife, but it's not terribly heavy. I mean, for a pocket knife, it's a little bit heavier, but it's super heavy duty and very strong. The locking mechanism is very solid. You can feel it like a car door slammed shut. Easy to open. It's not one of those knives that you can flick open. It's not a tactical knife. This is straight about durability and strength. As with all of our bushcraft knives, we're going to put this folder through the paces just like we would a regular bushcraft knife, because it's about how well can this knife replace a fixed blade if you need to take a camping style knife or folder everyday carry knife instead of a fixed blade. 6 categories. Those 6 categories are chopping and batoning, and yes, we will do that. Then we go into feather sticking, then cutting, spine scraping, ferrule rod usage, and then the last category, the 6th category, is the fit and finish and overall impression category, how it works, and we're going to give it an honest score on how it does for bushcrafting tasks.
Chopping. I know how to chop.
Evan, you need to get over here, buddy. Get out of the way. Okay, as you can tell, it's not designed to be a chopper, but that's about as big of a stick that if you're going to chop down a tree as you'd want to, really, or weaken it to break it. It'll do the task, just slower than you would on, and that mainly because it's designed very, very well, and it's got a lot of balance, so that it doesn't have a proportion of the blade that lends it to swinging with a lot of power. And it is a shorter blade, so you're not going to get great chopping out of it, but it did get the task done. So we're going to go into batoning, and this is where a lot of folders fail, because you have that weak spot, that fail point where the folding mechanism is at, and anytime you have a piece of knife that stops right there in the handle, there's a very high possibility of that breaking. And we're going to do it, and if I break this knife, I'm going to be heartbroken because I've grown to really be fond of it. So, no nicks or dings in it. It's keeping a very nice edge. What I did notice, the one downfall, that while it batoned fairly well, this is obviously something that you wouldn't want to do unless you have to. But it can do it. I did notice that when I put a lot of pressure on it and I hit it on the outside, that when I was pushing down on this end and hitting on and batoning on this side, the locking mechanism opened up like that. So it went, and as long as you're pushing down on it, it counteracted that. But you just have to be very, very careful. And I did hit on the back of the handle a couple of times just to test it out. And it, it left a little mark from where I hit it. But it seems structurally, it seems like it's pretty tight. And, this is a month later of hard use. And it's kept together pretty well. Feather sticking. And so what I wanted to show you is that sometimes for feather sticks, I also like to make shavings off of it, and it's doing a pretty good job of that. And as you can see, I'm making tons of little cuts on it. And I'm able to make paper thin cuts on that, so you're not going to have any problem feather sticking, which you should expect. You should expect it to be able to make just really super fine feather sticks. Feather sticking, it has supernatural abilities to feather stick. It does quite well with that. I'm impressed. We're going to give it a 9 out of 10? A 9
out of 10.
Evan says a 9 out of 10. I was going to say 10 out of 10, but he's probably right. He's probably accurate that, if it had been a flat grind or maybe just a little bit thinner on this secondary bevel, it might be just a little bit better, but as is, a 9 out of 10, it does a great job. Okay, so we've made a miniature spindle And I actually, I got a question last week after one of my videos somebody watched. They asked me why on the blunt end of my spindle I have a sharp tip on it, as well as on the other end a skinny tip. Obviously we know everybody has their own style of making spindles, and you know, if a bow drill works for you, the way you do it, that's what you should do. Now if somebody shows you a way that might be easier for you if you try it, then you add it to your game or whatever. The reason I make this skinny is I do it for one specific reason. I use it as an actual drill bit, so that if I'm using, let's say, the 2-stick bow drill method where you've got these tied together real tight, this drill point will drill in, or drill bit will drill in a nice little hole to get me started, and it'll be ready for me to
Make a fire.
take that drill bit off and basically put on the grind point and once you have that hole in there, it hits a guide that's perfect for doing an aggressive stroke on it. The next thing you always see me do is gorilla tape. This one is 30 reps, but it's below freezing out here and it's hard as a rock. I have no idea if it's gonna cut or not. Oh wow, and look at that. Despite how cold it is and these fibers being completely frozen together, it's just slicing through it. And when you know something cuts good when you can feel it smoothly go through there without any drag. And as I always point out, when it's a smooth cutting knife, there's absolutely no drag marks on that gorilla tape. It's just amazing how well that cuts. Then of course rope. And this, you can see, will just cut right through it. And a lot of knives, they won't even saw through it. You have to literally just beat on it to get it to cut through that. And you're like, ah, ah, ah. This knife, it literally, you can push it through the rope with no problem. And this is already a month of a ton of cutting. I really don't know how to say it better than I love this knife's cutting ability. For cutting, it gets a 10 out of 10 easily. Now we come to the part of the program where the knife is going to falter a little bit. The laminated knife, it's not going to scrape great or well. We'll just get right to it. This thing is shaving that bark off like crazy. And once again, I'm overly impressed. That's just fine powder that it's created on there. Really good job. And quite honestly, I didn't expect a Helle knife to do that, so I've never tried it before. In the month long that I've been testing it, I'm superbly impressed by its scraping ability. Having said that, I may be incorrect in saying that it's a laminated steel. It might just be a straight stainless steel. I'm gonna guess that's what it is. I didn't do a ton of research on it. I just looked at the steel type and the length, and I just had it on the top of my head because we were running and it's getting dark, so I was trying to be really fast. And I'm just so used to all Helle knives being triple laminated. This one, I don't know that it is, and it's probably not with as well as it's scraping. That's something that you don't get with its other knives, its bushcraft knives, whatever. You just don't get that kind of scraping. So we're gonna give it an 8 out of 10 on spine scraping.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there you go. It actually works. I'm impressed. I'm impressed quite a bit by it.
What are you doing?
So for the Helle Scala,
Marvel.
on the fit and finish, I basically said it all already. This thing fits in your hand perfectly. That finger guard keeps it actually back into your palm just a little bit off of the palm knuckles. So it's really in your hand in a very convenient place. It allows you for great manipulation over the blade. It allows you to choke up.
Can I do this?
Yeah. It allows you to get a lot of good techniques and grips on it to cut with, more than you would on any other fixed blade. I am incredibly impressed with it. It's a beautiful stainless steel, and when I said it was triple laminated, I apologize. It's obviously not. We got ferro rod fire going with just the bark that we scraped off of a limb off of one of these trees. Very easy to start a fire. It does every single task that you could ask of it for bushcrafting, although I would stay away from batoning and chopping with it. If you could go out with like a diving sparrow mako shark, you know, a big chopper, and this knife, you could go win alone. Don't even need the training, you just need this knife and the diving sparrow chopper, and you're good to go. That's a little facetious. But seriously though, this knife is amazing. I would feel quite comfortable with it if this is all you had. If you had to do a survival course with it, this knife would get you through it and you would pass with it if you had the skills. I'm impressed. For the first time ever on fit and finish in my impression, I'm going to give a knife a perfect 10 out of 10. So for me and for Evan, say hi.
Hi.
And say bye.
Hi.
We really do appreciate you being here. It's cold. We're going to get our fire going a little bit better. And then we're going to get out of here. want to go find us some more wood?
Yes.
Okay, go.
Like big one now?
Yeah.
Big one. Big one. Like this big one?
Yeah. Some more of these.
I'm gonna get bigger. Can I take this big one?
No, not that. Just go get a bunch of wood and put it right over here. So for knife reviews, I super appreciate all your support. All of the comments, all the suggestions really drive us forward, and this episode specifically is a great example of that. People have been clamoring for me to do a bushcraft folding knife, and I didn't feel comfortable with any of the folders that I had. I have probably 55 or 60 different folders, and I didn't think any one of them would work in this situation that we were talking about. Obviously, a fixed blade is always the one that you want to go with, but the Scala, it just smacked it out of the park. I am super impressed. Gosh, if you have the 135 bucks to spend on a folding blade, this is one of those times. Oh, you're great. Thank you, buddy. Give me 5. This is one of those times that I would absolutely, hands down, no reservation, say perfect knife. If this is what you're looking for a folding knife, that style, go get it. Go get it. Go get 2 of them. Go get 3 of them. Put it in your pouch. I'm going to save up tips again until I can get a second one so I can keep it in my go bag, in my truck. And if you could go to our Facebook page and our Facebook group, both are knife reviews. Our YouTube page or channel is Knife Reviews. We'll have links on here, I believe, if I remember how to do it. Go there, like, share, subscribe, comment, give me more ideas, what you want to see, and I'll see if I can do it. If you have any questions or comments, email us at knives@knifereviews.us. I appreciate you. We love you. Thank you. Have a good night. Stay safe and God bless.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I love you, Evan.